Hey, welcome back to Preps Today with John Millea. He's John Millea from the MSHSL. You can find his written work at MSHSL.org. At John's Journal, you can find his spoken word artistry here. We have some really cool stuff. I'm just going to get right to it. This is called a tease. The last segment we're going to do is John's new tattoo, which that sentence contains two surprising words to me. Tattoo and new. I did not expect tattoo. I didn't know that we would need the qualifier in talking about John's tattoos.
It's not my first tattoo. It's my second tattoo, and we'll get to that at the end. Yeah,
we will. All right.
And if I sound a little rocky to folks, I brought home a big time head cold from the boys state hockey tournament, and it reminded me of an old classic Esquire magazine story from 1966. The headline was "Mr. Sinatra has a cold." And now Mr. Goofball Sports Writer has a cold.
By the way, not to get too old school here, but I can't help it. Mr. Sinatra has a cold is an epic piece of celebrity journalism. I mean, more on the journalism than celebrity. Just a great portrait of Frank Sinatra at that point in his life, with none of the glitz. Just kind of, it's a slice of life. It's fantastic. If you ever get a chance to read it, go read it.
It's great by Gay Talese.
Gay Talese is one of the great authors of our time.
Yeah, it's 1966 in Esquire magazine.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
We're still talking about it today.
Yeah, and we should.
As I have a cold.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you work too hard. That's why you get sick. Hey, before we get to the topics, and we'll start with boys state hockey, we want to thank Aquarius Home Services. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studios, and we want to thank Jody Stay and Pizza Barn in Princeton. Get up there. It's not far out of the metro. Great food, great people. You will not regret it. But today, let us start with boys state hockey, a tournament for the ages.
Yeah, it was really something, Jim. I barely know where to start here. There was just so much great stuff. And I've been thinking as my time as a full-time employee of the high school league winds down, I'm looking inward and wondering, am I growing a bit more romantic about these things since I've gotten older and my days are growing short here? That surely may be possible, but even without that part of this was an unbelievably fantastic boys hockey tournament. Just a lot of great moments, unbelievable performances. Here are just a few of the headlines. For Saturday night's 2A championship game between Moorhead and Stillwater, the attendance was 20,491. That's an all-time record.
Wow.
The average attendance in the NHL this season is about 17,500. So it blew past that. And I saw this somewhere on social media. Somebody did a little more digging. The only sporting event in America with a larger crowd over the weekend was a men's basketball game between Duke and North Carolina on Saturday night in Chapel Hill, 21,750. So not only did the AA championship game blow past every NHL game, and most NHL games all year, but of all the NHL games on Saturday, this was at the top. And other than Duke and North Carolina State in that giant arena in Chapel Hill, it's second only to that. And this is a rarity. Both state championship teams come from the Red River Valley. East Grand Forks won the Class A title with a 2-1 overtime win over defending state champ St. Cloud Cathedral. And in 2A, Moorhead took a big early lead, and they held on by their fingernails to beat Stillwater 7-6. And this Moorhead celebration was something. The Spuds had been to state 22 times previously, had played in 8 state championship games, had never won the whole thing till this time. So the celebration was something. Among the happy Spuds was my friend Larry Knutson. He's a radio pro up there. He's been broadcasting Moorhead High School sports since 1979. So he'd broadcast 22 trips to state, 8 championship games. They finally got one, and Larry was part of the celebration. And East Grand Forks, this is really an incredible story of sticking with what you're doing. And they finished the regular season with 10 wins, 13 losses, and 2 ties. And as somebody with the team said, as they were talking before the section tournament, the quote was, all we have to do is win 3 games, that's to win the section, and then win 3 more, that's to win state. And they did it. As the 2A championship game was starting, I asked on social media for people watching from far away to let me know where they were. You know, you can watch these games online. It was incredible, Jim. You know, Tucson, Florence, Italy, Alaska,
Wow.
Las Vegas.
I've been there
San
recently,
Antonio.
by the way.
Yeah. There, you know, you haven't watched hockey when you're in Florence, so
No, next
Las
time.
Vegas. There you go. Time it right. Las Vegas, San Antonio, San Diego, Staten Island, Florida, Montana, Phoenix, on and on. It was just something as those rolled in during the game. The star of the game for Moorhead, Mason Kraft. That kid scored 4 first period goals, tying a tournament record set in 1951 by, say it with me, John Millea. That's pretty good company.
Wow.
And the next day, Mason was named Mr. Hockey. I wrote a story about a Moorhead, the Moorhead team remembering somebody close to them. Ethan Monshagen was a team manager last year, died shortly after the hockey season a year ago. Suddenly had an aortic, something spontaneous aortic dissection is what it was called. He just was gone. He was 16 years old, like I said, a manager for the hockey team. During the pregame introductions, the managers on this year's team, Jake Franklin and Graydon Quaid, they held up a jersey with Ethan's name on the back, and that had a handmade sign that said, "This one's for you, Ethan." And after Ethan died, hats and shirts, apparel, different things were made with the heart logo and the words "Ethan's Heart." And some of the Spuds players wore those things to post-game interviews. They talked about Ethan. I wrote about that. This is a neat little note. Shakopee finished 5th in the Class 2A tournament. And Sabres coach Calvin Simon, he's a Shakopee alum, is in his 7th season as head coach. He became the first African-American head coach in the boys state hockey tournament history. I wrote a little note after I talked to Calvin. There was a really strong Gophers and NHL presence on these coaching staffs. I wrote about Andover assistant Jordan Leopold. We remember him from his Gopher days, and a Stillwater assistant coach named Thomas Vanek. Those two guys, former Gophers, they won NCAA championships, had great NHL careers. And those two and Greg Zanon, the Stillwater head coach, they all played for the Wild. So the building was very familiar to those guys. But my favorite story from the tournament, and it's already one of my favorite stories of all time, involved a broken skate. Cole Schmeidenberg is an East Grand Forks junior defenseman. As those guys, the Green Wave, they were walking from the locker room down the tunnel to go out to the ice to warm up for their semifinal game. He hadn't even got to the ice, and he took a step with his left skate, and basically the bottom part of the skate busted loose from the boot. There's a plastic piece called a touk, I learned, Tuuk, that connects the boot and the skate. The rivets popped out. This kid was a no-go. He had no skates. One of the coaches had brought skates to town for practice. Someone ran to their hotel, got them to the arena in time for the first period. Cole had 0 warm-up time. He got on the ice just a few seconds before the puck dropped, and he told me the coach's shoes were not a great fit. His feet were killing him. In the meantime, the broken skate was on its way to a shoe, leather, and hockey repair shop on Grand Avenue in St. Paul, 1.5 miles away. And it was just crazy good luck how this all happened. One of the people staffing the tournament behind the scenes was Andrea Schmidt. She's the activities director at Roseville High School. She went to school at Roseville with the George brothers who run this shop. Dan, Chris, and Brian George, they're 4th generation operators of George's repair shop. She made a call. One of those boys drove down to the X. Andrea went outside, handed the skate off at the curb into the car, and Dan George worked on the skate. I talked to him. I wrote a story about this, which was just unbelievable. Took him about 20 minutes to get that skate put back together. He drove it back down to the X. Andrea was standing outside. He handed it through the window. And after the first period, when the teams came back to the locker room, Cole's skates were right there waiting for him. And it's funny because I think the initial call to Dan was, "Can you have these ready for their next game tomorrow?" And he wasn't going to do that. He said, "I'm going to get them ready for the next period. I'm doing everything I can." And I wrote about this whole thing. I talked to Cole. I talked to Dan. It was just incredible. I got a message from Cole's dad the next day asking me to help him get in touch with the guys in the shop. He went down there Saturday morning to offer thanks and shake hands with everybody. And he said Cole was going to write a very nice thank you letter to the guys in that shop. Again, pretty amazing stuff during a pretty amazing tournament. I'll never forget it. It was so much fun. It was worth catching a cold to experience all this. And then briefly in the other state tournaments last week, Edina won the team championship in the 2A boys swimming and diving. St. Thomas Academy was the team champ in Class A. And at the adapted floor hockey tournament, Brainerd won the PI division. And in the CI division, the team from New Prague, TCU, LeSueur, Henderson, Belle Plaine, Jordan, they were the CI champs. Both of those teams finished unbeaten, so congrats to them and all the adapted floor hockey teams.
So we're going to get to the next big tournament. We're going to thank a ref. We're going to get this week's most valuable teammate, and we're going to talk about John's new tattoo. First, though, let's hear more about Pizza Barn in Princeton.
Yeah, great stuff as always going on up there. It's March, and the pizza of the month is the classic Reuben pizza. They start with their famous homemade crust. They throw a base of Thousand Island dressing. Chef Shorty adds chopped corned beef that's cooked in the Pizza Barn ovens. They throw in some sauerkraut. It's finished with a mix of Swiss and mozzarella, a little black pepper. It's absolutely great. You can get it for dine-in, carry-out, take and bake, or delivery all month long, the Reuben Pizza. And don't forget about the Pizza Barn's great lunch buffet Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 1:30. During Lent, you'll find beer-battered cod and seasoned waffle fries on Fridays at the buffet. And there are great options, different options every day. It's just the best thing going for lunch in Princeton. Thanks again to our friend Jody Stay and her crew at the Pizza Barn. They will take great care of you, and you'll have a meal to remember in a really friendly and comfortable setting.
Thank you, Jody. We do appreciate it. Also, one programming note, we've added Mark Rosen to our stable of celebrities, along with John Millea and so many other cool people. Our first live Talk North Sports Report show will be 7 p.m. on March 26th at the Parlay Bar and Kitchen. That's basically the ground floor of the Union Rooftop. They've renovated it. It's a beautiful sports bar now. We're going to do our first show there. Russo, Lavelle, John Krasinski, myself, Mark Rosen will be there. Check it out if you get a chance. Come on by and visit. For this show, just want to thank Jody Stay and Pizza Barn. And now let's get on to the next tournament.
Yeah, this week here, Jim, we're talking on Tuesday afternoon. It's the girls' state basketball tournament starting Wednesday. This is a 4-class sport. Games at Williams Arena and right next door at Maturi Pavilion. You buy one ticket, you can shuffle back and forth. And then as with the boys tournament, a week from now, consolation games at Concordia University in St. Paul. The top seeded teams are Goodhue in 1A, Providence Academy in 2A, Benilde St. Margaret's in 3A, and Maple Grove in 4A. All 4 brackets are filled with what look like really good matchups as we wind our way towards championship games on Saturday. And then, like I said, next week we'll end the winter season with the boys' state basketball tournament. It's a little different schedule this year due to the Timberwolves having some home games. The tournament will start on Tuesday. This is the boys' basketball tournament, which is a day earlier than normal, with games at Target Center and Williams Arena. All the boys' semifinal and championship games will be played at Williams Arena. They are normally at Target Center, but again, the building is not available, so it'll be great. There'll be a lot of noise in Williams Arena. And speaking of boys basketball, congrats to Cretin-Durham Hall boys basketball coach Jerry Klein Jr. He recorded his 500th career win on Saturday against Stillwater. Big game this week for Cretin. Section final. Cretin is 26-1. They'll meet Tartan, which is 27-0 on Thursday night, with the winner going to the Class 4A state tournament. So a lot of good basketball on tap here.
Beautiful. All right, let's get to one of my favorite set pieces. Let's thank a ref.
Yeah, we're thanking a whole bunch of refs here. The Rochester Area Officials Association. This is a really strong group of officials in all sports. They go above and beyond in lots of ways, including recruiting and training new officials. Right now, they're inviting people interested in officiating basketball to sign up for their 12th annual Southeast Minnesota Basketball Officials Camp at St. Mary's University in Winona. This is July 17th and 18th. There are sessions for folks interested in officiating high school basketball and for those who would like to work college women's basketball. It just sounds like a great setup to me. And here's a website. Details are available at SEMN, that's Southeast Minnesota, SEMNofficialscamp.com. You can get all the details there.
Excellent. All right, another great set piece. This week's most valuable teammate.
Yeah, what's cool about these state tournaments, Jim, is up on these giant screens at the XL Center, Target Center, Williams Arena. The graphics celebrating all these most valuable teammates are up there. They look fantastic. So this week we're honoring Rebecca Copeman, a senior at Chatfield, a member of the dance team. Rebecca has been a leader on the team since she joined in 8th grade. She's always pushing the other girls and supporting them when they struggle. Rebecca never lets a teammate say, I can't do it. She works with them to figure out the skill or the choreography until they have it down. Congrats to Rebecca Copeman of Chatfield on being named a most valuable teammate.
And now the highlight of the show, really the highlight of this week at TalkNorth.com, John's new tattoo.
Yeah, I don't take anything lightly, Jim, including the decision to get a tattoo and what that tattoo is. But the day before the boys hockey tournament, I did just that. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Again, as my time as a full-time employee of the high school league winds down, I'm filled with appreciation for how much living in Minnesota means to me and my family. I'm an Iowa native. I'm a proud Iowa native. I lived there for 27 years. And my joke in Minnesota is I lived in Iowa until I was 27 years old, but nobody told me I was free to go. That's a joke, my Iowa friends. But 27 years in Iowa, 6 years in Arizona, and now 34 years and counting in Minnesota, which is, of course, my favorite state. I owe so much to the state and its people and the sporting world and high school activities. I could go on and on. My first tattoo was a few years ago when I became a grandfather. My daughter, who has a multitude of tattoos, convinced me. She and I went in the same time, and this is a plug for Nokomis Tattoo in South Minneapolis. That's my place. She and I got tattoos in Gaelic. She became an aunt. I became a grandpa. I have on my left forearm, I have the word, it's a Gaelic word, Shanaher. That's the Gaelic word for grandfather. My daughter got the Gaelic word for aunt. And most of my ancestors are from Ireland. I've got Flahertys and Conways and a whole bunch of weird Malays in my background. And one of my aunts a long time ago went through all the family history. And I know that a guy named John Millea got on a boat in Ireland, in the mid 1800s and came over here, ended up in Iowa, spent the rest of his life there. So that's Shanaher. That's me. I kind of looked at that one as a way to link my ancestry with my grandkids. So Tuesday, I went back to Nokomis Tattoo, a talented tattoo artist there named Rin. She did my first tattoo. She was working when I walked in. She gave me another one. This one's on my right forearm. There are no letters. There were no worries about spelling mistakes. It's very simple. It's the state of Minnesota. Blacked out, looking sharp. I'm proud of it. It'll be on my arm for the rest of my days. It's my way of just showing my appreciation for this state and how great it's been to me and my family. And no second thought. Sometimes people will say, "Boy, you sure that was the right thing?" Yeah, it was the right thing to do. I wasn't going to get it on my neck or something like that or the side of my face, but it's pretty prominent. If I'm wearing short sleeves, you're not going to miss it. The other one is kind of hidden. It's not quite so. The Gaelic word Shanaher is not quite as out front as this big black shape of Minnesota on my arm, but I couldn't be happier with it. So yeah, I got a lot of reaction to that as I was showing it to people at hockey, and we should all get tattoos of our favorite states. That's what I think.
It's amazing how tattoos have changed. When I was young, you only saw tattoos on military people, former military people, and criminals.
Exactly right. Me too. As a little kid, I'd see these Navy veterans with the anchor on their arm or whatever it was, these World War II guys. Yeah, it's a fashion thing now, clearly. And you go into a really professional tattoo parlor, the walls are covered with different things, different ideas. And I didn't have to think. I mean, I texted them before, and that was kind of their system. Let us know. I wondered if you have time. You Venmo a little down payment. You got an appointment, and yeah, pretty incredible. I don't think it took 20 minutes. People have asked me, "Do these hurt?" And in both cases, I've told people on a pain scale of 1 to 10, I don't think it's a 2.
Wow.
It's just not. Now, maybe in the old days, these things really used to hurt, and I wasn't sure about coloring in this state of Minnesota. It's not that big. It's a couple inches tall, an inch and a half wide, maybe, but yeah, the pain level was minimal. And now it's just itchy. I put some ointment on it. And it's still kind of peely, but it's part of me now. There's no going back.
Wow, that's impressive. What's the other tattoo? Are you allowed to say?
Oh yeah, the first one was this Gaelic word.
Oh, that's right. You did say that. Yeah. Yep. You did.
And the way YouTube explained it to me in Gaelic, Aher is father, and Shanaher is grandfather. And I assume that's correct. I could go over to Ireland and show it to some Gaelic expert and get laughed out of the room. It might mean something bad. But
this end up.
That might very, very well could be. You're making me cough now.
Sorry about that. I apologize. Well,
yeah.
I was saying we've survived John's cold. We got through the show. Thank you all for sticking with us. Hope John feels better next week. Although you did fine this week. That great stuff. I love the hockey tournament stuff is amazing. Glad you got a new tattoo. I'm glad Minnesota's worked out. You and I both we're both refugees from other states, and it's worked out pretty well to be here.
No complaints by me. That's for sure.
Great stuff, John. Thank you. And
thanks, Jim.
And now that you've started the tradition, every show you have to have a new tattoo to talk about.
Oh, I better call the tattoo parlor. Yes. Get them ready to go.
Get a punch card. Every 12th one is free.
I like it.